Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson's wearing the Mets jersey. By the time you guys hear this podcast, there's a chance that my Philadelphia Phillies are eliminated. Embarrassing fashion. Could be
I hope it's
catastrophic. So we'll see what happens. But Tyson's feeling good about his Mets.
I'm feeling good. I had to get some get back. Brad wore the Phillies hat last week. I didn't check my phone and know we were going team specific, so it's a little bit on me, but it did piss me off enough to put on the Cespedes jersey today.
Good. That's what we needed. That's what we want. That's what we're searching for. But we got a lot to get into in the college football front because there was carnage. Tyson and I were like, you guys can do your chores and hang out with your girlfriends and your wives, whatever you guys want this weekend. It's not that good of a slate. Well, it turns out everybody wanted to lose and everything is shaken up, man. I mean, were you just – I know you had something going on, but were you like, what is happening?
Yeah, I was visiting a buddy over in Butte. We ended up watching most of the day Saturday. We went golfing in the morning, but I had ESPN Plus up, and the day started, in an upset fashion. It was maybe not an upset if you listen to the books, but it started with somebody we're going to talk about a little later getting pounded. And then it moved into some of the bigger upsets that we've seen, not by point totals, but by wins that mean a ton to some of these schools. And I think that's what college football is about to me.
Absolutely. So let's get into it, Tyson. Let's start with the first segment that we got, and we got to tell people where we were right.
I told you so.
Come on, baby. You know where I'm going. SMU is for real. They go on the road. They face a Louisville team who's frustrated. Tyson's calling out big game Jeff Brom as he may have lost his fastball. This is a chance for Louisville to pound SMU, to show, no, we are the ACC team, not the team coming up in the rankings. We are the ones who have been established and stand here. And what does SMU do? After making their quarterback change, saying it's not the Stone Age. No, Preston Stone's out of here. We're going with Kevin Jennings. This offense looks great. Rhett Lashley starts looking like the guy that everybody was building him up to be. Somebody who could maybe take over a major program outside of SMU one day. Maybe it is in Alabama. Maybe it's a Georgia, an Oregon, a Washington. One day down the line, maybe he could be in line for that. But SMU right now, they have one loss. It's to BYU, who all of a sudden is up to 15th. In the AP poll. It doesn't look so bad of a loss. I got to say, SMU is looking pretty good, making me look smart.
Yeah, I was thinking you were a real idiot there, so it's a little bit on me. A weird thing in football. It turns out when you decide you have one starting quarterback, you start winning more games. And you start winning them more convincingly. SMU looks good. My I told you so this week is a little bit of a throwback here if you've been a long-time listener. Tulane can play offense, people. Like, Tulane can score the football. This is how they started this year: 52, 34, 34, 41, 45. And then, Brad, you bet the over this weekend in the game. What was that number?
It was 54.5, 55.5, something like that.
And Tulane scored 71 points, people. I mean, this is a team. Mensah can play. Thompson can play when he gets in the game. McClure can play. Like, all of these guys are really good. I think that Tulane is really fun. We talked about last week that they were number one in the ESPN, not number one, but they were on the list in the chances to win out for the rest of the regular season, according to ESPN, and they did nothing to kind of dissuade that graphic and that opinion earlier this week on Saturday with a huge win. But, Brad, I was searching because Saturday, I don't know what's going on. My I told you so, for real, is listen to me on the Friday games and just disregard what I have to say on Saturday.
John Summerall taking over. Willie Fritz goes to Houston. He leaves Troy. Summerall comes to Tulane, and it's looking, Tyson, like that was a really good hire. And so, yeah, Tulane, could be a power player in the group of five for a long time under him. Let's we got to admit where we made some mistakes. Unfortunately, we both have the same take here soon.
I've made a huge mistake. Hand up.
Oh, Tyson, Missouri sucks. They get absolutely pounded by Texas A&M. It was one of the big upsets of the weekend. It wasn't close, folks. I mean, athletically, a mismatch. Mentally, I mean, you talk about and you look at some of the mental mistakes that was taking place on this football field. It was ridiculous. Brady Cook has regressed.
Was he ever that good?
I'm like at a loss for words, man. I mean, this was probably the worst call that I had of the season because this thing was over in the first quarter.
Oh, dude, you and me both. And I didn't pick the game, but I had Missouri as a playoff team before we did this whole thing. I was like, you're getting plus value. This team's going to be really good. The defense is awesome. The defense isn't awesome. Like we were sold a lie. I don't know what I saw with my own eyes last year and what changed to this year. The defense got out physical. Then they struggled to cover spreads earlier in the season, and we're talking, well, they're not really playing anybody. They struggled against Boston College, and then they struggled against Vanderbilt, which turns out like maybe that's okay because Vandy goes out and gets a huge one for them. But and then they get smoked by Texas A&M. We thought that this was the part of the schedule they were kind of going to cruise to, and then they were going to get the Auburn, Bama, Oklahoma stretch to end the year that was going to be a little testy. Now it's just unlikely that this team wins enough games to make like a bowl game that matters with that Auburn, Oklahoma stretch coming up. I've been higher on Brady Cook than you, I think, and was he just never that good? And I just bought into everything that Drinky and the boys had going on.
So that's the question, right? Because we've seen the guys that stay in for school for a long time and they shred it up, right? Jordan Travis, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, I guess. He didn't really have much experience, I guess, per se. But there's other people who stay in it for maybe a little bit too long, right? Dylan Gabriel, KJ Jefferson. Maybe it's Brady Cook as we're kind of going through the names currently now. And that might be the case. I mean, last year was like a perfect storm. The offense looked good and explosive. And he just stayed a little bit too long, Tyson. I don't blame him. He doesn't have a ton of NFL prospects per se. But man, out of this, I was shocked when I was watching this game. Completely shocked.
Yeah, and this is like Drinkowitz turns out Bama. And this is where we are.
All right. This is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a painful one for me as well, Tyson, but it's always one of our favorite segments that we got to get to.
Donkey of the day.
And it pains me, folks, but Trent Dilfer. Oh, my man. I got to give you your Donkey of the Day award here because you're coming off a press conference that was a disaster where you're like, oh, this isn't Alabama. You offend the people in Birmingham. This is a proud tradition at UAB, a proud football tradition. I'm saying a little bit tongue in cheek, but people care. Honestly, seriously, like you can't be the head coach of a freaking football program and demean it and be like, "Wow, this isn't like an NFL or this isn't." I'm the big NFL guy. And I'm doing you the favor by taking over. And Tyson, it's been a complete dumpster fire. 4-8 last year, 1-4 so far. They're 0-2 in conference. They just gave up 70 points. He's coming from Lipscomb Academy, a high school in Nashville or in Tennessee outside of it, where he's 44-10. That was great. They look good. Finished first place. Once he really got rolling there, including last 2 years, 26-1 overall record. There's a difference, though. Like, this never felt like a good fit. I know a lot of people were saying this didn't. I actually thought it was going to work because of what he had done, with the passing academy that he did the Elite 11 and then what he did at Lipscomb. So I completely whiffed on that. So not only is Trent Dilfer Donkey of the Day for this week, but I'm the Donkey of the Day because I believed in him.
You were loving this hire when it happened, and it's been brutal, man. And brutal. Sometimes there's a difference between coaching in high school and college, and I know like 8 guys personally that probably think they can coach in college and have no shot. Trent Dilfer might just be another name on that list. Mine is somebody that you hit on last week, and I don't think you hit him hard enough because this ACC officiating is getting out of control, dude. It is brutal. The Clemson-Florida State game has like a million missed calls in that game, and maybe we're just a little salty because we had Clemson 16.5 and they can't cover, whatever. But in the end of the Miami game against Cal, this is blatant targeting. This is as clear-cut as it gets. Like Brock Osweiler sitting up in the booth, essentially asking for a rule book because he doesn't understand what he just saw. Cal gets hosed. Miami gets handed a game at the hand of the officials twice in a row. And I know the officials got the call right in the long run last week, but I'm still on the how do you overturn it based on the camera angles you got? Because the ACC officials are a clown show, because the review booth is a clown show, because everything about this conference isn't going to exist in 6 years. And this is another reason why. I mean, they're the bottom of the barrel, brother. Miami's got a ton of help so far this year, and I think I'm just upset about that. But this it's across all ACC games. It just feels like when these crews show up, it's going to be problems.
That was so bad. The ending was so bad on Eagles. Cal gets soft, and they get conservative when you're kicking the shit out of this Miami team. It's brutal. Justin Wilcox, that's what you get with the defensive head coach, and his defense gets shredded in the second half. Brutal. But I hate targeting calls. I think it's the dumbest thing in sports, right? It's stupid. Like, you're playing football, you know what you signed up for. I think if there's clearly something where everybody's like, man, that was too much, then you can throw them out of the game. Because your head glances on somebody else's head. That doesn't make it targeting. But based on the rule, the kid lowered his head, speared it, like he dove like he was a missile.
Lost.
Like if you see that meme where the Simpsons kids like jumping through the window, that was him diving at the other guy's head. That is targeting. I don't know how you watch that in real time. I can understand if you miss it because it's like, oh, it was going fast. But to then get a flag down and be like, oh wait, actually this is a booth initiated review, and to watch it for 5 minutes repeatedly, we're kind of sitting there like, yeah, this is clearly going to be targeting, and you don't call it. It's inexcusable, indefensible. If that's not targeting, throw out the book. Then nothing is targeting. I'm like flabbergasted. They didn't call that.
It made no sense. I mean, it was top of the head, and like you said, they were there for a half hour. Why'd you call it down if you weren't going to change it?
Completely unbelievable. But normally Tyson and I highlight the upset of the week coming up. There was just too many. So we're going to break down every single upset that took place in our next segment.
Biggest storylines.
And boy, oh boy, did Vandy, our boy Diego Pavia, pull off a stunner and beat Alabama, who were coming off a huge one of their own the week before against Georgia. And Vandy holds the line. They don't crumble under the late pressure. They get big first downs, and boy, do they pull off the biggest upset in the history of their football program, beating the number 1 ranked team for the first time ever.
When they were leading early in the game, it just felt like, okay, they're going to get out-athleted at some point, and Bama's going to come back and win. And then it, kept creeping closer to the finish line, and then finally Alabama gets the football. Joe Milroe has a chance to go down there, score a touchdown. Bama takes a lead. It's all good. We're going to forget about this in 4 or 5 weeks when Bama's rolling everybody, and it gets strip sacked. And then Vanderbilt goes down, and they convert 1 million third downs with their backs against the wall and score a touchdown. This is Clark Lee gets a statue after something like this. This is crazy. This is all time. Thank God the school is full of a bunch of geniuses who can rebuild goalposts immediately. I'm good for those kids, man. Getting to carry that thing down the center of one of the bigger party towns in the entire country. I mean, I'm sure they had a night. But on the flip side of this, Bama looked awful in the second half against Georgia, right? And then they follow that up with this. Are we starting to look at this Kalen DeBoer thing? And look, I'm not saying he can't coach or whatever, but it does feel like Nick Saban would have never lost his football game, and it's an unfair guy to get compared to, but that's the job you took, and that's where we're at.
Well, I think 2 things on that front. So the DeBoer thing, there's already people in Tuscaloosa saying DeBoer needs to be fired, which is
That's
just so perfect college football, right? But we talked about this on the NFL thing. We got to be careful, like anointing coaches, and this guy's been anointed, and I think for good reason, right? Like we've seen a very good track record at Fresno, at Washington, at Alabama. But there's a reason why, like we see like a once in a generation type of coaches, like why we saw Joe Paterno, why we saw freaking Nick Saban, why we saw Bobby Bowden, and there's like very few that we look at and say those are the legends. So when he follows up a legend that is Nick Saban, it's impossible, and we're gonna see stuff like this. Now, I think when we look at this team in general, this might be the worst defense Alabama has had in 20 years. They are awful. And you got the guy throwing a fit, which I want to get into and get your opinion on that before we move on.
That's why I'm at the board.
But Tyson, 418 yards from Vandy, 166 on the ground. They ran the ball 54 times. I know you can be like, okay, 3.1 yards per rush. Then how can you not get him off the field? 12 of 18 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. That's unacceptable. This is a Vanderbilt team that threw for 252 yards. 16 of 21 from Pavia. It was a master, or 16 to 20 from Pavia. It was a master class. 40 points from Vanderbilt. Man, that just makes you think, right? Like, how good is the top of the line? Because we were saying, oh, it's Bama, Georgia still looks good, Texas, Oregon's up there. I don't think Oregon's been impressive. Like, who's the dog in college football this year? Is it really only Ohio State? But they haven't played anybody either. I mean, I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's what this upset made me think.
Yeah, I mean, they were upset. Malachi Moore was upset. He's grabbing face masks. He's kicking footballs at referees. He's punching himself in the helmet. This is a captain on your football team. Like, this can't happen. And this is just another reason. I think this is bigger maybe than some of the other things people were talking about with DeBoer. But Washington's very, like last year, the year prior, very fun and everything is good. And, we're having a good time. And then you get down here and it's business. And these guys are going to react a little differently, and you can't let that slide. I saw that Moore apologized to the team today. I don't care. Be better. Don't do that stuff on the football field. That's insane. There's a lot of people being like, he's acting younger than Ryan Williams, who's 17. First of all, great joke. Did you think of that yourself? That's really good. But he's emotional after a loss. Should he have reacted that way? Absolutely not. Was it kind of a clown move and pretty classless? Yes, but I do get the frustration.
Apologize for it. Malachi Moore did. I mean, it was just insane. Like, tried to get subbed out, refused. I mean, it was really a tantrum. That was crazy. I mean, I don't know. Imagine what's happening today if Nick Saban's the head coach. I mean, my goodness. But here's a little something for you, Tyson. Quote, I think sometimes we get the call in a little late, so it gives us a little anxiety of not knowing what the offense is fixing to run or adjusting to their formations, Malachi Moore said. Coach Womack, that's kind of his style of wanting to put us in the perfect positions. I think that was the feedback I've gotten from the D-line all the way back to the secondary. We feel like if we get the call in just a little bit quicker, it'll give us time to just line up and go whip the man in front of us. End quote. What do you think of that? I mean, what in the world?
If that's a problem, then talk about it in the building. Like, that should never get out. I know this isn't the NFL, so you can give a little bit more leeway because they're kids, but that is something that they can't have. Could you imagine if somebody came out a couple years ago and was like, and then Coach Steele just doesn't get the stuff to us quick enough? This is a problem. Everybody's cut. Everybody's running. Nobody else is on the football team anymore. That is a problem, though. They do look misaligned at some of the snaps. It looked like Georgia was almost playing with them a little bit in that second half, trying to disguise some looks and then flipping things at the last second. If that's going to be the book, I don't know if they've got the talent, but I don't know if they have the wherewithal to kind of continue down that path.
Arkansas beats Tennessee. Now, the number 4 Tennessee team went on the road to face an Arkansas team who lost against Texas A&M the week before. And this was a game I thought maybe I should have kind of seen that with the line that Vegas was setting. But, this was a trap game. I mean, but Tennessee coming off a bye to go scoreless in the first half looked completely awful on offense. They score the 14 points in the third quarter, go scoreless, have a chance to win at the end. Nico holds on to it, runs out of bounds, doesn't throw it into the end zone. Inexperienced play. I chalk that up to being like, okay, there's some inexperience there. We kind of understand that. But Tyson, what are we to do with Tennessee losing this football game to an Arkansas team that's not very good?
Well, and it felt like they were going to cover to me the whole time. Like, they come out in the third quarter, they score 14 points. They got the lead going into the fourth. We're all good. Everything's gravy. Tennessee figured it out. And then Arkansas responded. And this is an Arkansas team that struggled to get off the mat in recent years, let alone pull these giant ones off at the end. This used to be a yearly occurrence. If you remember, somebody was getting messed up by the Arkansas Razorbacks throughout the season. I again, just like you, I think this is a learning experience for Nico and the boys, but it does feel like this is just a Tennessee L. And this we talked about not anointing coaches. Sometimes it's tough, but it's hard to anoint programs. Like, me and you were sitting here talking like this isn't a Tennessee team that has really struggled to maintain high rankings. We thought the defense was awesome. They didn't look awesome when they were trying to get Arkansas off the field. Like, Taylor Green throws for 265 yards. That can't against who? Like, he doesn't do that against anybody. He's doing it against Tennessee here. Look, at the end of the day, I think that this is a huge win for Arkansas. Tennessee's very lucky that their loss comes on the week that Bama loses and all these other teams we're about to talk about lose, because I don't think they're dead by any stretch of the imagination. But they do have a ton of stuff to clean up. You can't start that slow in a game that matters.
That was the most shocking thing to me because everybody was talking about, Josh Heupel is so good in the first quarter, so good in the first half. And if you've kind of follow, certain betting things, everybody's talking about, oh, he's the best cover ever in the first half spread. And, he was. And it just did not work out for him this way. Tyson, I'm looking at the box score here. How did they only score 14 points? I mean, 7 of 16 on third down, 332 yards, 158 passing, sure, but 174 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per attempt. Sampson had 138 and 2 touchdowns. It's kind of weird, but 10 penalties, 60 yards. I think that tells a story, and it felt like it was all coming up big play times too. And Heupel's got to clean that up, or else, this team, if this is what we're going to get, if people kind of figure out this offense, I think there's a few more losses they're going to have in the SEC. How about USC losing to Minnesota? Huh? I mean, this one just kind of flew under the radar, but USC, number 11 ranked team at the time, going on the road and facing a Minnesota team that just hasn't looked very good. PJ Fleck felt like he had 2 feet out the door. What's your thought process on this USC team now going to 3-2 with this loss?
Well, first of all, I think some of these dudes have to just be better. Like, I think Miller Moss was a bit of a problem, but, you need more from Hudson, Deuce Robinson. You need more from all these guys. These are 5-star wide receivers. You and I were talking about it. We're talking about Zachariah Branch as a returner. Only. He's not touching the football. On offense, Lincoln Riley is the same record as Billy Napier over the last, 12 games or whatever that is. Yeah. Let that sink in for everybody out there. They're trying to run Billy out of Florida. Lincoln Riley has the biggest buyout. He's fine here in USC, but this is welcome to Big Ten. Max Prosper is the ball doesn't touch the ground. We know the USC defense leaves a lot to be desired, but it's not like you're going up against some of the big boys here. Minnesota is a good football team. But they are firmly in the middle here, and USC doesn't just lose this game. They lost it in a way that this is Michigan runs all over you. Minnesota runs for 193 yards. This is just going to be your life until you get it figured out.
Woody Marks 20 carries for 134 yards and a touchdown, average 6.7 yards per carry. Why are you not giving him the ball more? It's clear this defense or this offensive line was struggling. You get your quarterback 23 of 38 for 2 touchdowns. Lincoln Riley, swallow your pride. Run the football. You got to win football. And that's the problem that we've had with him throughout his entire college career. It's got to be his way. We got to win him my way. The offensive line was bad last year with Caleb Williams. It's not I guess they necessarily had a good running back, but it's okay, dude. It doesn't have to be our offense looks so good. It's like what we were at Oklahoma. You're now playing the Big Ten. People are faster. People are bigger. People are stronger. There's more NFL bodies. You have to just win games. And when your guy is running the football at a 6.7 yard per carry clip, we saw this Minnesota team get shredded up by North Carolina. You know what North Carolina did? They ran the football and they won the game. Now, granted, that's what they want to do, but that's what you have to do. And, Lincoln Riley fails to adjust, and then they lose the game. They're no longer ranked.
I thought about it this weekend, and I think he was Lincoln was the style of offense he runs and scoring 1 billion points. That was super awesome for teams. It was sexy in the BCS era, in the 14 college football playoff era. Now you just got to win enough to get in. And so to keep losing games through hubris is a genuine problem, and one that we were very hesitant to say this USC program is back, even when Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy. And I think they're farther away right now than it feels like they've been the last couple of seasons.
Last one we want to highlight, Washington drops Michigan, right? We kind of had a little tongue-in-cheek, and we kind of had, Michigan's dead type of moment. I don't even really think it was tongue-in-cheek. I mean, at least from my point of view, I think there's real concerns when you look at Michigan going forward. I mean, you have the best quarterback in your quarterback room, Jack Tuttle, couldn't play at Indiana. This is Michigan. You guys just won a national championship. I have major concerns under Sharon Moore. It looks like the hires that he's made, Wink Martindale, that's not going to work out. Are we already talking about another change in coordinators? Tyson, this is a disaster. We're 5 games into the season. They're 3-2. Now, we kind of expected them to take a drop off because they lost so much returning talent. But my goodness, man, we talk about this is politics season. Everybody's talking about, look at the choices between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump for VP and who their cabinet's going to be. It's about the choices. This is the choice that Jerome Moore made? Wink Martindale? I mean, what in the hell?
And like Wink's the only one with the contract, I think, still. So he's fine. Whatever happens with these guys, I don't know what the hell is going on over in Michigan. I said it kind of just felt like one that the college football gods were going to take from Michigan a week ago after like the offsides penalty that wasn't for them that results in them winning a football game. But like we like Will Rogers a ton, but he looks like this. He looks awesome in the game against Michigan with this vaunted pass defense and all that stuff. I mentioned Jonah Coleman on the preview show, and I was like, he's a good player. I thought they did a good job of keeping him in check. Washington just said, well, hand it to everybody else too, because we're not afraid of you. We don't care if you're coming downhill or whatever. We're going to go right at you. Yeah, it's a long way to travel, and it's one of the tougher places in the country to play. This is what you do when you're defending national champions. They're sitting here at 4-2 with absolutely no right to have a 24 next to their name when Washington is still unranked. We just saw who's better, and this is one of those things where it's going to get darker in Michigan before it gets better. We did this when Harbaugh came back. People do this all the time in college football, where like these teams that were historically, they're about to do it with Nebraska. These teams that are historically great have a couple of years of sustained success, and we disregard the last 20 years. And we go, well, Michigan's back. Like this is just who they're going to be now. That's not true. This is it's a lot more common in college football to have your LSUs who pop up every 5 years with a really good team than it is to have consistent and sustained greatness. And Michigan they're in a world of trouble, man.
I agree. And we talked about this before. I'm not going to do a whole nother eulogy for Michigan, but boy, oh boy, this does not look good in the first year of Sharon Moore. Okay, Tyson, let's look ahead. Last week, we didn't have a lot to preview. We didn't think it was going to be very exciting in terms of on paper. It turned out to be an incredible weekend of college football. But this weekend on paper slates out to be much better. So we're going to get into our next segment called Playbook Preview. Highlight preview.
Playbook Preview.
A banger. Ohio State travels to the Pacific Northwest where their rivals, the Michigan Wolverines, just fell. Is the same thing going to happen to the Buckeyes? Having to travel out to Oregon and Eugene and Autzen Stadium to face an underwhelming Oregon team that so far that maybe he's doing a little rope-a-dope. Maybe he's trying to lull you to sleep, and all of a sudden, boom, they come back in with the overhand right and knock out the Buckeyes. Tyson, do you see that happening this weekend?
Remember when Oregon went out into Ohio and beat them, and it was a fun game? Doesn't it feel like this is just going to get returned tenfold this weekend for Oregon? I think Ohio State is going to be just fine here. Oregon has left a little bit to be desired to this point in the season. The best bet so far is to bet on them to not cover the spread, right? I mean, they have one win ATS this season, I believe. They have Ohio State's got some issues on the offensive line. I don't think Oregon's necessarily going to be the team to exploit those things. What are we doing with Jeremiah Smith? Is this real? Is this real? Real? Is this wide receiver core legit? There are people saying, I know Kyle McCord beat UNLV, but there are people saying shouldn't have ran him out of town. I think that we find out this weekend why exactly it was that he's no longer the Ohio State quarterback when Ohio State goes on the road to Oregon and takes this thing.
Well, I know a lot of people are saying, Will Howard, they're not really using his legs a whole lot. Did we see that against Oregon? Are they saving something? And that's the era we're in college football. I mean, these teams are just so much better than others. We saw last year with Harbaugh and Michigan, they did that. They would sit on a bunch of plays. They didn't really show a whole lot and wait until they need to pull it out. They did it against Alabama, and they did it against Washington. They did it against Ohio State when they beat them. And so maybe that's the case here, right? And Ohio State has another wrinkle, and I'm hoping that my team will preview later is doing the same thing. But Tyson, on paper, this is an insane matchup. I mean, offensively, Ohio State's the best team on an EPA basis at running it. Oregon's 15th in the country at stopping it. Ohio State's 10th in EPA per dropback. Oregon's 7th in EPA per dropback on the defensive side. They're really good at defending the pass. I think your question about the Smith and the Ibuka, thank you. If that thing is real, that will come to fruition here. Can Will Howard find these guys against a defense that's been very good at taking the pass away? That's what I'm intrigued by. The other side, 26 in EPA per dropback for Oregon. They're going up against number 1 in Ohio State in EPA per rush. Oregon's not too shabby at running the rock either. They're third in that regard, but Ohio State's second in EPA per rush. Like, this is a heavyweight battle. And while we've been underwhelmed by Oregon, Tyson, maybe they've been sitting on some things. So I don't really know what to expect, but I'm in agreement with you right now. I do think Ohio State is the better team.
Well, Dan Lanning's a better coach, so let's get it.
Texas and Oklahoma in the Red River shootout, Red River rivalry, whatever the hell we're calling it as PC now. Tyson, last year, Texas was clearly the better team than Oklahoma, and yet they lost. And I'm sitting there, and I was tweeting out, I'm like, it's just something with this Texas program, man. Like, I don't know. They see Oklahoma on the other side, and they immediately get, like, little brothered, and then that's kind of piss off the Texas fans. I'm sorry, Oklahoma's a historically better program than Texas. It's just a fact. Look it up. But this, to me, feels like Texas is going to absolutely take out all their frustrations of, like, the last 15 years and pound this Oklahoma team. I don't see it any other way.
Well, we thought that a year ago when Oklahoma was struggling, right? And it's like, is this Venables thing even going to work? He's got guys trying out for the team, in the middle of the week, just random students, what's going on? They're able to pull it out. Texas' defense is so fast, and it feels like Oklahoma's really only way to win football games right now is to out-physical you and outspeed you, and I think Texas' defense is being slept on a little bit, mainly because the offense is so much fun, and there's so many more talking points on that side of the football. I think that Oklahoma's number might be a little bit inflated. Sitting here at 18, we're talking about this as a top 20 matchup. It doesn't feel like it to me, but we're searching for a team to be number 1 in college football right now. And Ohio State and Texas both have the chance to put the boots to somebody this week and claim that spot for their own. And I think that's exactly what Texas is going to do.
Texas and Oklahoma both have really good defenses. I mean, that's the only way I can see Oklahoma staying in this. They're 7th in EPA per rush, 19th in EPA per dropback. But Oklahoma's offense is clearly the weakest link and the weakest unit in this one. 57th in EPA per rush, 85th in EPA per dropback, going against the Texas defense that you highlighted. That's 9th in EPA per rush, 3rd in EPA per dropback. So I think it's going to be hard to score for Oklahoma. It's a good defense that they have. But I think Texas, man, I think they're ready to explode on them. I'll just put it that way. So should be a good one there. Tyson's guys are in action. Number 9, Ole Miss, goes to Baton Rouge to face his favorite LSU team he's ever seen, number 13 ranked Tigers. Defense looks a little better, man. I got to say. Now, it's not like they've necessarily played great opponents. This is going to be a huge test against the Ole Miss high-flying offense that Lane Kiffin brings in. But how are you feeling about this one? What's your read?
Well, first of all, it's Tiger Stadium at night, so that throws a lot of things that I think about this LSU team maybe out the window a little bit. It's big game BK, all those things, we know it. But yeah, the defense looks better against South Alabama. This is not South Alabama. This is Jackson Dart. This is a really good team. This is Lane Kiffin. Tons of playmakers, a lot of speed, and I think that they're going to be able to exploit some of these things that the LSU defense does poorly. A lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage, which hasn't necessarily been what we think of when we think of this Ole Miss team. We think of the huge explosive. They can get them that way against LSU. I think LSU is live here. I'm seeing a lot of people calling this like a playoff eliminator, and I can see that if you still believe in LSU. I personally don't think that this team is like playoff caliber, but I do think that whoever loses this game is likely on the outside looking in. So I think the Magnolia Bowl here is pretty huge for the college football playoff. The LSU offense might be able to score with these guys. Like, they might be able to score on this Ole Miss defense. I think that they're starting to find their footing, being able to run the football, and that's necessary if they're going to win the game. Need a Mason Taylor game if you're LSU to win this whole thing, or to win this game. I think that Ole Miss probably wins comfortably, but God, I would love to beat them.
Well, Tyson, the funny thing is here too is Ole Miss defense is like sneakily like good this season so far. Now, they haven't played a ton, but I think the strength of LSU is chucking the ball. Like, we know that Nussmeier's good. They have good weapons. 14th in EPA per dropback. Ole Miss's defense 33rd in EPA per dropback. So on paper it's good, but that's the weaker part of their defense. I think that can be exploited by LSU. I mean, we saw freaking Brock Vandegrift on Kentucky throw the ball on him, and Nussmeier's a way better player. So I think if their offensive line can hold up and do enough in the running game, like you said, to at least make them honest. Now, the thing is, Ole Miss third in EPA per rush, which I think is difficult. But like you said, 34th for LSU. This is a running offense that looked like they were dead. Looked like they had nobody. Now they're up to 34th, so I think that's sneaky. And LSU's defense, we just kind of laugh and mock and say it's horrible. 57th EPA per rush, 55th EPA per dropback. So improvement all around. I think again, everybody does when it's Brian Kelly and something goes off the rails early.
He wins these ones.
These are the games he wins, dude. Like I would not count him. And these are the games that Lane Kiffin loses. Like all conventional thing that we know from college football points to LSU somehow pulling off this upset. Although, like, we're looking at it, we're like, there's no way they win, right? All right, let's close it out here. My Penn State Nittany Lions traveling to California to face USC. This was going to be, but many people thought, the top 10, top 15 matchup.
USC losing all the way out is crazy.
It's crazy. They were 11, lose to Minnesota, and now they're unranked. So now, of course, Penn State's going to look like fools when they lose this game. But I got a synopsis here, Tyson. I'm going to throw it to you because, last week I was confident you were shocked. So this week I'm back to being, the negative self that I am. So I want to hear your opinion on this.
So I'll just get it started. Hopefully I don't step on Brad's points a little bit. But we did talk about how USC can't stop the run. And this Penn State passing offense is something you and I both think is coming. Like it's coming along and it's looking fine at times and good at times. They want to run the football. That's what they want to do, and they're going to be able to do it this weekend. It didn't look like it a week ago against UCLA. Brad might talk about why it's going to look a little bit different this week. But as far as physicality goes and offensive line play, Bowling Green might be better at stopping the run than this USC defense is. I think that Penn State is just able to out-physical them. I'm going to have the same take in every other Big Ten game that USC plays going down here. But if USC can hit some of this quick game stuff and just not – like if Penn State wants to walk the corners up and just say beat us because it doesn't look like you can, that's going to be a completely different thing. I don't think they're going to do that. I think if they stick 5, 6, 7 yards off the wide receiver and USC can start hitting some quick game stuff and just keep it ahead of the chains, then all of a sudden it becomes scary. And those are times when you look at the sideline and you go, God damn it, we still have James Franklin.
That's my concern. I'm not concerned about the offense because what you laid out. Nick Singleton, Tyson was kind of alluding to it. He missed the UCLA game last weekend. It was kind of a weird thing. Everybody thought he was going to play, and the trainers, after he warmed up, were like, no, we're going to hold him out. Now, to me, it sucks for my bet, and I lost that. But, I'm a Penn State guy. I wanted to see him compete for a championship. You're going to tell me that in the middle of the season he got a healthy scratch, basically? And, I'd say that in the air quotes because, obviously medically he was held out. But let's put it what it is. He missed a game that they're going to win anyway. He's going to come into this one fresh against a team that can't tackle. And I know it's better under D'Anton Lynn, but let's be honest. They haven't – the more that they've gone into the season where they have to face guys that actually have to tackle, the less positive that it's looked on that front. Michigan, we can understand, right? They're hard to tackle, and it looked good for a long time. And then all of a sudden, boom, the dam broke. Minnesota, he missed some tackles here and there. This Penn State, this is a different beast, man. This is physical. They want to run the football. They're going to. Katron Allen's going to have a ton of broken tackles. Singleton, if he breaks one, he's gone. But what concerns me is the defense because under Tom Allen, they've done a great job at adjusting, right? Coming out of halftime, they've been shutting down their opponents. I mean, it's actually been impressive. But every single time I watch, they can't defend the middle of the field. They can't defend slants. And Lincoln Riley and his offense, they're going to want to go across the middle of the field. They're going to want to do quick game, especially when the offensive line for USC is not going to be able to hold up against Abdul Carter and deny Dennis Sutton on the edge and the interior. They're going to have to throw the ball fast. I'm with you. Bring the corners down, beat us over the top. I can live with that. I can't live with dying a million times because he can't defend a slant route because he missed his own coverage because the linebacker's slow to rotate because it's college football. That drives me crazy. In the NFL, all right, I get it because the guy runs a 4.4. These are still 18, 19-year-old kids, man. It's hard to cover that type of the field yet. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out. I think Penn State does win this one. Barring a complete disaster where there's a ton of turnovers, I think they can comfortably run the football, hit some big plays, and win this game. But I got to say, man, I'm a little nervous.
Got to get started early. You got to win the turnover battle for Penn State. Got to jump on them early. Can't let USC hang around. But I know totally. This is weird because this is a game where you're like, they suck, and you're going to bet USC to cover and maybe even take the money line and blah, blah, blah. So now I'm feeling a little nervous. But there hasn't been a team that won a college football national championship, as long as I can remember, that wasn't able to walk corners down and win games just like this. A lot of that SEC teams back in the day, the SEC bias, where that all comes from, yeah, the defenses were good because the corners were all going to the league. And Penn State has a chance to say, we can do that too. And that will really be the thing that allows me to, get over that mental hurdle and say they do belong.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our show. We had a ton to get into, but Tyson, college football fans can rejoice. We got football games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the rest of the frickin' season, man. And so we do our pick show at the end of the week, giving out for the weekend, but we're going to have to give out picks during the week if we like plays. So where can they find all that good stuff as we get into the nitty-gritty of the football season?
It'll be in our Discord. Link is in the bio, all of that good stuff. The group name is I Said What I Said, and as Brad mentioned, tons of different stuff going on. I mean, we've got live overs on the Liberty game tonight. People, you're missing out if you're not in there. Baseball is going on right now. I mentioned earlier the NHL is back. October is the month, baby. And so if you're playing something, we want to hear about it. You can hop in there and make fun of us too. That's always a worthwhile experience.
Oh, definitely. We just have some fun in there. So join the links in the bio, like Tyson said. Like, subscribe, and share the show on the way out. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Stay subscribed. We got you covered with a ton of content on this very channel. NFL, we got you. College, we got you. If you want picks for the weekend, we got you. We're starting to heat up a little bit too, which is nice. So join us later in the week. If you want to hear what happened, our take on the Jets, if you want to hear our take on everything else, go back and listen to that. Stay subscribed. Stay connected. We'll talk to you guys later in the week. Until then, peace.